Good afternoon, everyone. It's time for another Wednesdays with Wayne. I am Wayne Frederick, your host. Today's session is recorded because I'm actually traveling today here on August the 23rd, but wanted to make sure that we got this information out to you. We're going to talk leverage points today. As this marketplace continues to evolve, there are some things that I just feel like are incredibly important that we do. And I want to talk leverage today because leverage is going to be the key for all of you moving forward. And I'm just going to jump right in. We're going to talk about three basic big categories and then give you some strategies within each category. So let's just jump in on leverage points, which are the key to business. Here's a definition of leverage: is to use something you already have in order to achieve something new or better. So I think that's how we have to start looking at the industry. How do we leverage the buyer relationships we have into more business? How do we leverage the listings that we have into more business? And how do we leverage our SOI or our past clients into more business? So what are the basic components of real estate leverage? Well, the first one is going to be your processes. That's going to be the process that you take every single person through, regardless of how you meet them. That we have a standardized process, because I always want you to remember, people refer processes, they don't refer people. Now, within that, there's basically three buckets, right? There's the listing side leverage, things we can do to perhaps turn our listing into more business. There's the buyer side leverage. How do we take the buyer and perhaps turn that into some listing side business? And then how do we leverage the referrals? That's just basically seriously staying in contact with people. And I'll show you why that's so important statistically. I wear you out with this quote. I know I do, but it's one of my favorites. Most people go through their whole life and they never get leverage. And that's sad. But what's worse is when people have leverage and they don't use it. And I want to reinforce to you all today, you have leverage at your fingertips, and I want to show you that. The basic premise is just simply this: you're here. You are in the real estate business. You have leverage. I want you to use it. I want you to understand what it is, and I want you to understand how to leverage it into more business. Because moving forward through this market, it's those people that are leveraging the pieces of business they have that will thrive in this market. So regardless of the geographic area or where regardless of where you live, the size of your market, everything boils down to this in business. Number one, your financial model. Okay. That is modeling out how much you're willing and able to spend in the pursuit of this leverage. Number two, we add that with consistent lead generation. That's a leverage point. And then do we have the ability to consistently convert the leads that we are generating? And when you add all of those things together, now you're dealing with leverage. Now you have a leveraged business. Take one of those three things out of the equation and you won't have leverage. And I think this is where people are trapped right now. Some people have a financial model, but they're not consistently doing the lead gen, or they're consistently doing the lead gen and they can convert, but they're not willing to spend any money because they're not sure, or they're spending the money and they're generating leads, but they can't convert. And either one of those, 2 out of 3, 1 out of 3, whatever, keep you from truly having leverage, and leverage is absolutely the key moving forward. So let's just talk about issues shaping the marketplace. Today's playing field, because of the massive amount of information available at everyone's fingertips, consumers can start to look at realtors as interchangeable pieces. And I would say as we continue on, consumers are starting to look at realtors as interchangeable pieces. The current market is basically exposing a fact, and it's our over-reliance on an MLS system. This is exclusive to the residential side of our equation, okay? The commercial side of real estate doesn't really use an MLS system nearly as often as the residential side does. But this marketplace, as we continue on, I think is exposing our over-reliance as an industry on an MLS system. Look, guys, there's no doubt that an MLS system gives you extreme advantages. It gives you listings at your fingertips. But what we now have to add in is taking that information we have and not just relying on it, but going at it a different way. And that's what the purpose of today's session is. I think we're living in the most stressful time in real estate. Some would argue, I would argue, this is even more stressful than if you were here during the downturn of 2008 to 2011. But I know statistically, a lot of people in the industry today weren't around in 2008. So it's so far in the rearview mirror now that a lot of people in the industry, a lot of people probably watching this right now, y'all weren't around in 2009. And so this is some uncharted lands for you right now, right? We've come out of the 01 that we've talked about in 02 and where everything was just flying off the shelves, and there was stress there, but it's a different kind of stress now. The bottom line is, guys, the market's too tight, right? We know this. There's not enough listing inventory. Rates are too high for a lot of buyers. And because of that, we have to go back and do, in some cases, go back and do work that we got away from. And in other cases, we have to go do work that we've never had to do. Because listing agents, and here's a big key to this, there is a natural organic leverage point of just getting a listing. But when a marketplace is tight and things are flying off the shelves, you lose that organic leverage point. Okay. Every time we got a listing in a traditional market, that would give us an opportunity, say, to do a little marketing around that. That would give us an opportunity to hold it open. That would generate some more leads. Maybe some of those people that came through the opens, they had something to sell. And we're losing that in a tight market because the really great listings are still in multiple offer situations. And buyer agents are seeing your value stripped away because of the access to online information. I saw a stat the other day that active buyers, 29% of active buyers go to Zillow, our friends at Zillow, every day. And that is shredding the value proposition. Good properties, as I said, still seeing multiple offers, but now you're starting to see this divergence in the market. Good properties have multiple offers, not as many as we had, but still multiples. I just talked to somebody earlier this morning, said they had a new listing and they got 3 offers on it. They were all for full price. They weren't over full price. They were all just full price. But what we're seeing now is also, if you don't have a great property that's well priced, well, nobody tries to buy it. That's more symptomatic of a normal market. Buyers are missing out because they can't or won't pay enough. They can't qualify right now, right, at these new higher interest rates. And rates have really ticked up in the last 2 weeks. I believe that's because the secondary market is pricing in what they see on the horizon, which is when rates will start to fall. I heard yesterday, the projection now is 12 to 18 months from now, rates will start to fall. Okay, so the secondary market is pricing that in right now, because if they have a loan that's less than 12 months, they're left holding the bag if somebody refis their way out of it. These are all these forces that we need to be able to not only understand and explain to our customers, but also that we need to put things in place to help us navigate this market. And that's where the leverage comes in. Sellers are afraid to put their house on the market. You hear this all the time. Well, where would I go? Afraid they won't be able to find a replacement. Or I would move, but I would have to borrow money at this new higher rate, and now I don't really want to do that, so I'm just going to stand pat, which then exacerbates the situation. So 3 questions I think we need to try to answer today. Number 1, how in the world did we get here? Well, we didn't have a lot of control over getting here, to be really frank. The Fed reacted way too slowly to the situation coming out of COVID, and now they're trying to make up for lost time, and it is affecting a lot of segments, but it's really affecting the real estate industry. Is it possible, though, that we helped to create this? I think the answer to that is definitely yes, that as an industry on the residential side specifically, I think we did help create it to a degree. And did our traditional way of doing business get exposed? Meaning, did our over-reliance on an MLS system as our go-to, and in some cases, for a lot of agents, our only go-to, did it finally get exposed that maybe this is not the most effective way to do this? There is a great book called A Blue Ocean Strategy, and this is kind of the basis for some of the things we're going to talk about today. The Blue Ocean Strategy basically says, well, let me say it this way. We've reached the point where you're going to need a blue ocean strategy in real estate. Okay, now this book is not a real estate book. It is a marketplace book. The premise of the book is this, that the market for every product is comprised of two types of oceans, if you will, a red ocean and a blue ocean. Okay, and the premise of the book is rather than battling it out in the red ocean, why don't you just create a blue ocean? In other words, the red ocean is this. It's the traditional way of working with a buyer to find a home. It's the known marketplace, the available properties. It's the MLS system. And the premise they make in the book is that it's red because it's red with blood, because everyone is fighting and punching each other, if you will, scratching, clawing, whatever, over the known market space. Right. And we've seen this over the last 2 or 3 years. And so many people are still to this day saying, I have buyers, but every time something comes on the market, they're in a bidding war and my people can't get the house bought. Right. So I think it begs to open up the conversation of, could we create a blue ocean for people? Could we create a blue ocean for our people? And that's the unknown, untapped market space, properties that will be listed but aren't yet. So as an example, I looked last night where I live in Springfield, Missouri, and in the last 3 days in our MLS, there had been 120 properties that had been listed, and there were 136 properties that went under contract. All right. And when I went down through the average days on market, it was very, very low. But part of what I want to lay out for y'all today is the normal course of behavior for the consumer and where they are, and see if we can't give you some strategies to go get in front of where this marketplace is. So I believe it's the time for agents to raise the bar on professionalism yourself. Once and for all, it is time for us to become fantastic practitioners. And I know if you're watching this today, it's at least in your head to raise the bar on yourself and become more professional. That's why you attend sessions such as this. This is actually what creates your blue ocean. It's pretty much that simple, right? Rather than doing this the way you see all the other realtors doing it, rather than perhaps doing it the way that you did it in 2021 and the first half of 22, let's back up for a second and let's take a look at the business from a different perspective. Right? Let's challenge perhaps some of the rules. Let's definitely challenge some of the habits that we've created. So what's the blue ocean of real estate? It's an outstanding customer experience for the client, an unmatched customer experience for the client, while also leveraging that relationship for yourself for new business. Yes, it is using your current clients in the field to use them as a leverage point both ways. I'll show you how it works in order to try to find new business. That's the blue ocean. So what does it look like? It's having the materials and processes that separate you from your competition. We've talked so much about this on Wednesdays with Wayne. You have to differentiate yourself at initial contact, and then delivering these materials and processes to your client consistently throughout the process. We want your clients to get done with a transaction and go, oh my gosh, this is completely different than anything I've ever been through dealing with a real estate agent. This was an amazing experience. This is what people are looking for. And this marketplace, while hard, I'm not going to tell you this marketplace is not hard, but this marketplace has, by its design, tremendous opportunity in it if you're willing to do the work. So what does it look like? It's an introductory video. Every time you have a conversation with someone, you follow it up with a quick little video. Wanted you to be able to put a name with a face. Look forward to furthering the conversation with you. It is delivering buyer packets and pre-listing packets to people at first contact, along with unmatched dialogue in the field. I mean, really, really, really upping our game, guys, really becoming so good at this that you know you're bulletproof no matter what the marketplace does, bringing real value to your client, right? So we always think we're bringing value, but the question is, does the client believe we're bringing value? And that's where this thing is shifted a little bit. Value is always in the eye of the recipient, not in the eyes of the person making the presentation. As I've said to you guys before, I think I'm bringing great value to you today. Y'all will decide whether I really am or not, right? Because you're the client. If you take something out of this that challenges your thinking perhaps, or something that is a strategy you feel like you could do, then you'll see value in that. But if you get to the end of this presentation today and you go, well, that guy's, doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, then I didn't bring any value to you. Utilizing strategies to help your people find the perfect house, both on the buyer and seller side, because right now what we know is this perfect house thing, while fictitious, there is no perfect house, but it is where people are starting the process and creating a true fiduciary relationship, the big F word in real estate, fiduciary. What does that look like? I'm going to show you. So if every time we have a contact with anyone, outgoing or incoming, as my good friend Jim Good taught me years ago, the goal of any contact is to identify a potential client. How do we do it? It's by making sure we get 4 things worked into the conversation. Number 1, do they have a desire to do a transaction? Yes or no? Maybe right now, maybe 3 months from now, maybe 6 months from now. But do they have a desire? Number 2, do they have the ability to do a transaction? On the buy side, can they qualify, or do they have cash? On the seller side, are they owners, right? Can they sell the house if things align for them? Thirdly, would they like some help with the process? So some people don't want any help. They want to do it all on their own. We only want to be dealing with the people who want some assistance. And lastly, could I interview for the position? If you get 4 yeses, you now have a lead. We talk so much in our business now, I need more leads, I need more leads, I need more leads. Well, what you're really saying is I need to have more conversations with people, and then it's the process that we take them through determines whether they're actually a lead or not. That's a switch, right? You in a switch in mentality. You cannot control the quality of a person that you're making contact with. You can't. You can only control the process you take them through. But if you will be consistent with your process, what you will discover is they will come out the other side as being someone that you want to work with. And if your process is pure and strong, you will be the person they want to work with. It starts with buyer and listing questionnaires. I know you guys have seen this before because I tend to work it into about every 3rd Wednesdays with Wayne. Guys, these are crucial. When you're taking that incoming phone call, when you're meeting someone in an open house, your initial dialogue is more important today than it has ever been. And it's because of the online world we now live in. People are craving a human connection, okay? They're craving a true professional. And if they can't find it, they go online. And we'll talk about the online sides of leverage here in a bit. So what are the lead conversion tools that you need? This is a picture from one of my clients from a couple of years ago on open houses. This is what the island looks like in the open house. Buyer packets, listing packets, for sale by owner packets, new construction packets, first time buyer packets. Do you have materials in place for regardless of the situation for the person you might be talking to? Because that's a huge leverage point. We know that materials allow you to get into better conversations faster with people you do not know. Okay. They fortify relationships with people that you do know. So either way, this is a materials play. Now, this is going to cost you some money, but it's money that is well spent right now. It's money that's always well spent. Anything you can do to differentiate yourself is crucial. So if as you're watching this today, you don't have a buyer packet or a list, you don't have these materials, guys, this should be the first place you spend money. It'll give you confidence if you have materials. So let's talk the conversion process. You go out every day. You consistently go out every day and you have conversations with people. Now, if you're not going out consistently every day and having conversations with people, I will tell you what I believe is going on. Either A, you're hesitant with the conversation, you're not sure of the dialogue, and you need to build your confidence up, or B, you just don't want to go have conversations with people. If you're in column A, that's where we can do some serious work and we can really lay things out. But if you're, some people in this business, and it's no one on here today, but I guarantee you there's some people in this business who are like, this is too hard. This is harder than I thought it was going to be. And I think to a person almost, everyone on here is saying, well, just would you move out of the way, please? The theory is there's going to be a lot of agents leave the business, but I will tell you that we're up 40,000 agents nationally since February. So it hasn't happened yet. But when we have a conversation with someone now, if we always would follow that up with a video, guys, if you don't get anything else out of today, get this. Shoot a little video that simply says, hey, this is Wayne. We just got off the phone with each other. I just wanted you to be able to put a name with a face. I look forward to continued conversations with you. Have a great day. And send that out every time you have a conversation with someone that you don't know. That will help you leverage yourself. After we do the video, now we do materials, right? We've had a conversation. We've had a great conversation based on those listing and buyer questionnaires that we're going to send you out. And even though some of you have gotten them, we've got a lot of new people on Wednesdays with Wayne this week. You're going to get these materials. Use those as a way to have a fabulous conversation. Send the video out. Now, if you think that there's something here, right? They've passed the 4-level test. Get materials in their hands specific to their situation. Now, follow up on the materials and the video and the conversation you had. I would love an interview. When could we get together? We do a consultation with them, either on the listing side or the buyer side, whether it's immediate or whether it's in the future. And if it's immediate, we sign a contract with those people. Perhaps that's a buyer agency agreement. Perhaps that's a listing agreement. Either way, those lead to sales contracts. Because here's what's going on. Every day, our industry and life in general is becoming more transactional, less relational. And in a transactional world, the small business person's leverage is lessened. Guys, you are the small business people. In a transactional world, you have less leverage than you had when all of real estate sales was relational. This is a shift in the industry over the last 15 years, shall we say, maybe 20 years. It has really ramped up in the last 5. The third parties that we're going to talk about here in a bit, some of the third parties, they want this thing to be transactional. That's where they're going to make their money. And they want you to be an interchangeable piece. As a small business person, I want you to maintain the leverage. So always ask yourself, for everything that you're doing, how do I ramp this up? Every time I answer, the phone rings and I answer it, how can I leverage this? How can I have a better conversation with someone? Every time I hold an open house, how can I maximize this opportunity that I now have in the market? Every time I have a buyer, how do I maximize this opportunity? Every time I get a listing, how do I maximize this opportunity? Every time I post something on social media, how do I leverage that? Right? Always be asking yourself that question. Can I leverage this? There are things you can't really turn into more than they are. But this is the mentality we have to have. How do I ramp this thing up for my business? Today's transactional marketplace is on its way to becoming the new normal if talented people in the field don't get this thing moving the other way. Only talented agents can turn the tide. Now, will we be able to turn the tide for the entire industry? I doubt it, to be really frank about it. I doubt it. But y'all can turn the tide for yourselves. You can turn the tide for yourselves. Okay? I do not want you to live in a transactional world, because in a transactional world, it's all about price. We shop price in the absence of relationship. It's a quote that's been out there forever. Only in the absence of value does price matter, or whatever. Only in the absence of relationship do we shop price. And yet we're not doing our work as an industry. For those of you that are on here today, I want you to do the work. So this is the real change. What I'm hearing from people all the time, I'm waiting. I'm waiting for rates to come down. I'm waiting for them to be more listings. I'm waiting for the market to level out. I'm waiting for the economy. Please stop waiting. Go get ahead of the market. If we can see around the corner and we can see where this is heading, let's go get there now while everyone else is waiting. So the question is, are you prepared to look at everything you do now in a different way? Because we went through the market of 2021 when everybody's like, I just can't even take a breath, right? We're running hard and we're selling properties like crazy and all that. And our processes at some level kind of went out the window sometimes. But are we prepared? Now we have time, right? Y'all have time to back up and think a little bit and start to put some things in play. Are you prepared to change your process to not become an interchangeable piece, to not be transactional, and bring real value to the consumer, while also for yourself creating a leverage point? Because here's where we are. Absent an incredibly strong relationship with you, today's consumer goes online. And as a result, here's where we are. What is the new normal for real estate? What I'm about to show you, I don't know that I like it. You may not like it either, but this has become pretty apparent to me in the last few months. This is where we are. There's two distinct rails to this thing now. Number one is an online rail. On the seller side, it's Google. I'm going to talk to you specifically about that. On the buyer side, it's Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia, the portals. The other rail is referral. What we're starting to see is a lot of our tried and true tactics, the geographic farming, the open houses, those things that we used to do, that is changing because of the online world. Okay. Do those things still work? Yes, they're still working, but they're not working at the level that they were, because now people have this online information flow and they don't have to wait for your open house, as an example. I had this conversation with one of my clients a couple of weeks ago that an agent had said, I just don't understand. I used to do really well at open houses and now they don't work as well. And I said, well, as a consumer, I don't need to wait till 2:00 on a Sunday for you to hold the house open. I can get on my phone, click a button, and have 15 agents that will stop what they're doing right now and go show me that house. So we have to look at open houses in a different way. We just have to look at everything we're doing right now a little bit differently because of this new normal. So let's talk seller leverage. All right. How do we leverage the listings that we have? Here's a few stats that I think are very, very important as we talk about leverage. The average consumer in 2018 lived in their house 13.2 years. A lot of people in the real estate industry still think people move every 7 years. This is not true. In 2018, people were living in their house 13.2 years. I heard a stat in the last couple of weeks, but I could not verify it, that the number is now going to start approaching 19 years. Okay? Now look at it this way. We know that 87% of realtors come in the business and are gone within 5 years. Okay, 78% don't make it 1 year. 87% don't make it 5 years. All right. Now think about this for a second. If I've lived in my house for 13 years, there have been 2 whole cycles of real estate agents that have come and gone. Okay. 87% of the realtors have come and gone twice while I've lived in my house. If that number is 19 years moving forward, which I think it's going to be when I show you the rest of the stats that are on this slide, that means there's 3 iterations of real estate agents that have left. So what does that mean? That means I can't call my agent back because statistically, only 13% of the agents that were there when I bought my house are still in the real estate business. This is why leverage is such a huge deal. 82% of homeowners right now have an interest rate below 5, 62% are below 4, and 23.5% are below 3. So for those realtors out there saying, I'm just waiting for the inventory numbers to come back, I know they're going to come back, I will just tell you statistically, they're not going to in the short term. People, until rates really tumble a lot, I don't think you're going to see this big bump in inventory. But you don't need to see a huge bump in inventory. You need to position yourself for those people who are living in their houses longer, who used one of the 87% of the realtors who aren't going to be there. You need to be the person that's there. And we need to start doing the work now to position ourselves for when this recovers. Okay. And recovery is a bad word. We need to do the work now to position ourselves as things begin to change and move back toward more of a normal market. Okay. The real estate market is not bad. It's just different than what people expected. But if you'll do the work now to position yourself, you will reap the rewards. While real estate is local, what is driving consumer behavior is no longer local. So leverage point number 1 on the listing side is a Google play. All right. So here's the deal with Google now. Online reviews for literally everything that we buy carry equal or greater weight than a personal referral. If it is not what I call a stop traffic referral, people are going to Google you. Okay. Consumers are Googling before and now, interestingly, during the transaction as a filter for their decisions. So let me show you how this plays out. If somebody calls me and says, hey, I need an agent, and I give them your name, but it's not oh my gosh, this is going to be the most wonderful experience you've ever had, unbelievable, that consumer will Google that agent. I will tell you they will Google them. And if they don't see reviews, and if they don't see good reviews, and if they don't see quite a few of them, they're liable to not deal with that real estate agent. This is the same. Just think about the way that you go through Amazon, right? You're looking for a product that you haven't bought before. What do? You read the reviews. We read reviews. We read reviews on Travelocity now for hotel rooms. We read reviews for everything. But what's also happening now is when someone calls you for information during the transaction, if you don't get back to them in a timely manner, guess what they're going to do? They're going to Google the question, right? And then when you call them back later, that will be the filter for, it's like, well, I Googled it and Google said this, but the agent did this, and the answer from the Google was really more specific than what I got. And all of a sudden the value proposition starts to get subtly eroded. So in the online world, here we go. Google is now the go-to spot for sellers absent a strong relationship with an agent. So here's the keys to this. Okay, we did a session on this a few months ago, and I sat down and talked to one of my marketing buddies. Well, he's not a buddy; I'm a client of his, but really, really sharp guy. And he has done 2 podcasts on the whole Google play that I'm going to have Madeline send you links to those so that you can watch them. Because if you're ever wondering about Google and if it's important, he lays it all out for you in 2 sessions. Number one, you've got to be Google verified. That's the green check mark on Google. It'll take you about 30 minutes to do it on your business page. Okay. I'm not going to go into the details today of how you do it. We did a session on this, but if you haven't played around with Google at all, that's the first level. Second level, you've got to post at least 2 reviews per week. Okay. Third level, you have to answer the phone when it calls. If you have the Google green check mark that you've been verified, and Brandon Welch is the gentleman's name on the podcast. Brandon talks about this. Google wants their people who go to Google to have a fabulous customer experience. And that starts with whether you answer the phone or not. I have a couple of clients that are playing in this arena and are doing really, really well because they're doing the things that are laid out here. You have to answer the phone. If Google gets you someone to contact you and you don't answer the phone, and Google knows whether you answer the phone or not, you will start tumbling in the Google ranking. Maximize Google local service ads. All right. You can Google local service ads. You can Google business pages, and Google will tell you exactly how to set these up. When I had lunch with Brandon on Friday, and he said, this is a play right now that everyone should be maximizing. Okay. Because as it evolves, more and more people are going to get in this space and it's going to get more cluttered. All right. So maybe we may need to go back and revisit that. I'm going to send you, I'm going to have Maddie send you both of the links to the podcast. So Maddie, please make a note of that. And that way you can watch them. And then depending on what the response is, maybe I'll see if I can snag Brandon and have him come on. Leverage point number 2 on the listing side. So you have all of these sellers who say, well, I would move, but where would I go? Well, here's a contention I have. If you can buy a house contingent upon the sale of a house, why can't you sell your house contingent upon purchasing something else? I mean, if nothing else, that at least allows you to start a conversation perhaps with a seller. So you probably have sellers right now who are on the fence, right? I would contend that from a leverage point, you should contact all those people, book a buyer consultation with them, and get them to define their perfect house, and then say, let me see if I can go find this. Because again, going back to the blue ocean theory, there are people that are going to list their house today, right? There are people who are cleaning their house up right now. They're doing the work because they're getting ready to put their house on the market. The question is, how are they going to find a listing agent? Who are they going to deal with? And they're going to go absent a relationship or absent you getting in there and injecting yourself into their process. They're going to use the traditional methods. Here were the old traditional methods. All right. The old way of doing this as a realtor was if you did a lot of business, you would just always do more business, because people would call a name realtor absent a relationship, and they would find out who the names were through print advertising. Well, now there is no more print advertising. So they still are working. They're using their same agent again if they can, but statistically, if you go back to the other slide, they statistically have a small chance of using their agent again. Then they ask for a referral from a friend. Okay, that's great, but they're still going to Google you in the middle of all that. And then the third level is they're just going to go to Google, and they're going to look for the people that have the reviews, and they're going to read the reviews, and then they're going to click on the call button. And if that person answers the phone, and if that conversation they have is unmatched, great customer experience, that's who they're going to go use, right? But we have all these sellers who are like, I would sell my house but I don't know where I would go. Let's use that conversation and say, look, let me go see if I can find you a house. And we're going to treat them like a buyer. And then we're going to start that conversation. And we're going to say, look, why don't we go in and put your house on the market? We'll sell it contingent upon you purchasing another house. Leverage point number 3 is open houses. Back to the conversation I had last week with one of my clients, with the agent that said, I just don't understand. People come into nobody's coming into my open houses now like they used to. I used to do so well at open houses. And everybody that comes into the open house says they have an agent. Well, then we need to look at our process for open houses. Schedule your listing dates to maximize the opportunity. So list the house, whatever your MLS rules are, list the house on Fridays. And a lot of people are already doing this, but list the house on Friday so that you can hold it open on Sunday. And that's when the listing actually goes live. Send invitations out to the neighborhood and invite them to come in to the open house. And also send invitations to the open house to the quote unquote move up neighborhood. So what's a move up neighborhood? If I have a 4,000 square foot, 4-bedroom basement house, let's say, the move up neighborhood would be the 3-bedroom houses, 2 or 3-bedroom houses in the same geographic area, probably same school system. And it's those people who are looking because they've had another child, right? One of the basic reasons people move. Why don't we go invite those people? Okay. And then, and this is something that some people do, a lot of people are scared of it. Maybe at some point, if you guys want me to do a session on it, I will. Offer a guaranteed sale program if they're moving up. Okay. Guaranteed sale program right now, quite honestly, would be a pretty safe offer to make if you understood the dynamics of it. So what happens is if I have this 4-bedroom, let's say $400,000 house, I'll guarantee you the sale on your 2-bedroom, $200,000 house, given that you're buying the $400,000 house from me, right? And there's all kinds of things that we could talk about, but this would be a leverage point. I have a really good friend who does a tremendous number of open houses. He double ends a tremendous number of open houses. This is exactly how he does it. Okay, so he's leveraging the open house play. Leverage point number 4 is circle prospecting. So door knock or call all the neighbors to see if they know of a buyer, right? I just wanted to let you know about the house I just listed down the street. Do you know of anyone that would want to buy it? And if not, are you planning a move anytime soon? Or do you know anyone that's thinking about it? And if you get the answer of, well, you know what, we're thinking about it, but with these rates the way they are, we got to wait till rates go down. Well, great. Do you have an agent you'll be working with? Well, no, not really. Okay. Could I possibly be one of the people that you would interview when the time comes? I don't know why not. Let me give you a packet of information that tells you more about me and the way that I work, right? By the way, here's a flyer on the house that I just listed. If you happen to run into somebody, I just want you to have some information. Please feel free to come by the open house. And could I have your email address? And let's enroll them in a touch program. Okay, this is not part of your sphere of influence because we want to keep that pure. I'm going to show you about that in a second. But let's start dripping on those people. So when they get ready to do something, you'll have top of mind awareness with those people. That's how you leverage a listing. Now, this is work that a lot of people have never had to do, but it's work that perhaps you should think about. Let's talk about referral leverage. So the easiest business model of all is be really good at what you do, be really nice to everybody, and stay in touch with people. Now, if you're really good at what you do, you're really nice to everyone, and you stay in touch, your business will scale. It has to. You couldn't keep it from growing. But if you take one of these 3 things out of the equation, your business starts to go like this. And what we really, the missing link, the Achilles heel of our industry, the Achilles heel actually I've discovered now of small business in general is staying in touch with people. We just don't stay in touch. We don't. We know we should. We intellectually get it, but we don't stay in touch. And that's where the leverage point is with your referral business. So the model, and you've heard me talk about this before, but do your own math. It will tell you how many transactions you should be doing by referral. Take the number of people that you feel like are your guys, your SOI, your database, however you want to define that. Multiply that times 5. Take 5% of that number, and that is how many transactions you should be doing in the repeat referral world. Now, if when you do that math, you are not doing that number of transactions, here's what we know. This is not a theory. I've tested this out now with a client at scale for 3 years. Here's what we know to be true. Either A, You have people in your database that really don't like you as much as you think they do. Or B, you are just not keeping in contact with them enough. And it probably lies somewhere in between. So leverage point number one, the way we get to a smaller database of people is I want you to send them a client survey. Now this can be mail, this can be email, this can be however you want to do it. I want you to send them a client survey. I want you to see if they will return it to you. There's a process for this, okay? But I want you to use a client survey with people, and we want them to see if we can get them to take a step toward us, okay? That will help us narrow the database down. And it's going to get you to only those people that know you, like you, and want to deal with you. So that's the first piece of we tend to tote around these gigantic databases of people that we touch very ineffectively. I had this conversation with someone a few weeks ago, and they informed me there were 12,000 people in their database. And I said, well, just mathematically, that's 5,000 transactions. I think that was the number, 12,000. Let me just do the math real quick here. I'm sorry, 3,000 transactions from 12,000 people. And I said, are you doing 3,000 transactions by referral? And this they do a ton of transactions, and they said, no, not at all. And they said, the reality is we don't really stay in contact with our people. Well, even at their level, they're very vulnerable. Okay. So narrow your database down to those who know you, like you, and want to deal with you. Leverage point number two is how you engage with this new smaller group of people. It's 36 times a year. Do not worry about it, because I hear this from people all the time. Oh, that's so many. I don't want to be creepy. You're not going to be creepy. They filled out the survey. They've raised their hand to you. They've said, hey, I'm one of your guys. The only way you can then mess that up is not stay in touch with them. As I've said before, follow the lead of airlines, rental car companies, and hotels, and credit cards. The more you deal with them, the better this deal gets. The more gifts they give, the more events they have. 36 times a year. That's the number of touches, if you will, that you need to be making. Leverage point number three, to close Facebook group. If you don't do anything else that I talk about today, please do this. Please create a closed Facebook group for your people. Invite your people who know you, like you, and want to deal with you to get into a closed Facebook group. This is a fabulous way for you to engage with those people. The way that they get in is they do a transaction with you, or they refer business to you. They're one of your people. It's a way for you to be the hub of the wheel for them. Okay? It costs you nothing to do this, and it's a huge leverage point. Here's a couple of examples. This is two guys at Remax Energy, one of my clients in Oklahoma. This is Ryan Lerma. He works 100% by referral. And he sent me a text 2 weeks ago. He's already closed. I think it's somewhere north of 45 transactions so far, all by referral. But he has a closed Facebook group. He calls it Lerma's Click. Here's another guy in the same office. It's a young guy. He's only in business 2 years, but he's got Clark's Crew. And this is where his people engage, right? People will post in these saying, hey, does anybody know I need an exterminator? Who do you have? And other clients will say, well, here's who I use, right? We go through life basically by referral. This is a very simple, free way for you to leverage your relationships with your people. Now let's talk buyer leverage, the last piece of this puzzle. Leverage point number one are the online portals, right? That's a way for us to go out and play in the arena where the buyers are. Like it or not, Zillow, and I've got on here Zillow Truly Realtor, but let me just tell you, Zillow is now the first stop for buyers absent a strong relationship. If you do the research on Zillow traffic, everything else pales in comparison to the number of people going to Zillow. I don't like it any more than you do. I'm sorry, but it's where it's buyers' first move now. So if you want to work the buyer side as a way to acquire new people, a Zillow play would make a lot of sense. But here's the keys to converting it. Number one, speed and enthusiasm when you answer the phone. Number two is the dialogue. I do a lot of work with people in this space on exactly what that dialogue needs to be. And then lastly is always, in every realm, the process that you take people through. But if you're looking for a way to try to jumpstart your business, now people are probably saying right now, well, I don't really want any buyers because there's no inventory. You know what? A lot of these people that are on Zillow, guess what? They got a house to sell. So I think you should be willing to have a conversation with literally anyone. So let's talk the conversion process again. If it's a Zillow lead, I have a conversation. I send a video, name with a face, send the materials, follow up, have a consultation, and go to the contract phase. So I want you to standardize this piece of the puzzle, guys, right? That you have a conversion process for every person that contacts you, and you don't violate it. And you take them through exactly the same process every time. Leverage point number two regarding buyers. So let's say that we've acquired a buyer from somewhere. We've acquired them from an open house. We've acquired them from Zillow. We've just acquired a buyer lead. Leverage point number two is the Blue Ocean letter. So in 2021, inventory levels were so low and so many people had so many buyers. I crafted this letter that a lot of people across the country started using. And it does work, guys. I'll just tell you, it does work. And the only thing we can figure out, or that I figured out, I think, that made it work, is the last sentence. Please understand, this is not a fishing expedition trying to secure listings. I actually have a buyer who loves your neighborhood, your street, and I'm working hard to help them find their dream home and location. I did a presentation yesterday to people, and people were like, oh, everybody sends those letters out. You know, I just tell my people that they're not to another level. If your buyer will approve, why wouldn't you put a copy of their pre-approval letter in there and black out their name? Like, here's a letter on bank letterhead or lender letterhead, and make sure the pre-approval letter is for the maximum they can qualify for. Black their name out, obviously, right? But that all of a sudden brings validity to this letter. So it's not like somebody said you have to, there was just form letters. And I'm like, I said, but please understand something. Absent a strong relationship with you as my former realtor, I will tell you what happened across the country with these letters. The potential seller, saw no reason to loop their other agent back into the transaction. They went straight to the person that sent the letter. And I think, and the only time it happened where they looped the agent in was when it was actually the grandmother and they looped in their granddaughter. Other than that, the seller went straight to the agent. So this is a huge leverage point for you guys. When you get a response to the letter, be prepared for them to say, do you really have a buyer, or are you just trying to get listings? No, I really have a buyer. I do not, guys, I don't want you sending this out with like a fake pre-approval letter. Only do this when you really have a buyer. But this is a serious leverage point for you in the value that you bring to the table for a buyer and the process that you help a buyer in finding their perfect house. Do not tell them, okay, let me just have my buyer drive by. You close for a time to come out and look at their house, because if you've done the process properly on the conversion side, you know exactly what your buyer's looking for. Now, let's say that your buyer decides that this is not a house that they want. Now you've identified a potential listing lead. Maybe it's not immediate, but we have to start playing the long game, because here's what's happened to us as an industry. The portals, the third parties, the transactional side, they've been playing the long game for 15 years. And we've been playing the immediate game as an industry, as the people in the field. We have to start playing the long game. We have to start identifying those potential people, and we have to start staying in front of them, because we do not want them going back out to the portals. Leverage point number 3, specific calls and door knocks for your buyer. Whoops, go back one, sorry. So what we're doing here is, one of the part of the process for a buyer is, look, if you choose to hire me to represent you, and I'm not going to go down the route of the NAR lawsuit today, but it's why we've written this material for you guys, is to shore up this misnomer about how a buyer's agent gets paid and value and all those things that you're familiar with in our lawsuit. But one of the things I would do for you is let's get in the car and let's drive the neighborhood that you really want to be in. And you point to houses. Point to houses that you think maybe you would really like to buy if they would come on the market. And I'll go call those people, or I'll go knock on the door and see if perhaps they would sell. What that does for us, and it happens, I mean, I'm not going to tell you it's going to, you're not going to knock 3 doors and 3 people are going to, oh yeah, we'll sell. But I do know people that do this on a regular basis. And I do know of a case 2 years ago where a gentleman knocked on the door and he said, this is crazy. I understand it's crazy. I have a buyer that really wants to be in this neighborhood. And they literally pointed to your house. I'm not making it up. They pointed to your house. Would you consider selling? And the lady said, this is so crazy. I was getting ready to list my house in about 6 weeks. He ended up selling the house, $600,000 sale. Okay. So are you willing to go do this kind of work? I hope so, because it's a huge leverage point. Leverage point number 4 is when you have a buyer, right? Go back through your SOI, go back into your closed Facebook group and say, hey guys, I have a buyer right now looking for this. Do you know of anything? Or call your people that you know they have a house like what you now have the buyer for. I know this is kind of crazy, but I've got a buyer looking for exactly what you're living in because I remember selling it to you. Would you consider selling it? And this does not count in your 36 touches. This is just over and above. Moving forward, guys, you want to be the hub of the wheel for all your people. You want to be the hub of the wheel forever moving forward for everybody you come in contact with. And the only way you can do that, is to have a consistent leverage mindset as you go through your daily walk of whatever crosses your plate as a real estate agent. That's why I wanted to talk to you guys about this today. This is such a huge issue in our business. I'm seeing a lot of seasoned people who their production is down. They're like, I don't understand. My stuff's not working anymore like it did. The ball moved. The playing field moved. This is where we're heading. I want everybody that I interact with to, number 1, not be afraid of it. Number 2, not be waiting. Let's go ahead and get there. Because when this marketplace, when rates start to drop, as we know they will, they already priced it into the mortgage models. The people who are doing this work now will be massively positioned as we come out of this. And I'll just leave you with this. Walt Disney said, do what you do so well that they'll want to see it again and they'll bring their friends. Ultimately, can you become such a fabulous practitioner, such an unbelievable professional, that not only will people never think of doing a transaction without you, but they'll also recommend all their friends to you? And the answer is yes. And that's my message to you today. But it's leverage points that allow us to do this. It's really analyzing what we're doing on a regular basis, putting consistency in place, and getting after it. Now, our next session is going to be on, whoops, forgot to fill that in. Let me go backwards. Our next session on September the 6th, that is going to be about pricing. Okay. Sorry that I forgot to put it in there. That is going to be about the pricing conversation, the pricing strategy. It's not going to be the whole listing piece. It's going to be a pricing strategy. Starting to have more and more phone calls from people about having challenges with pricing and with CMAs. And now all of a sudden CMAs are a big deal. So September the 6th, we are going to specifically talk about pricing. Guys, as always, thank you so much for your time. Sorry it had to be recorded today. I'm literally on a plane right now as you're listening to this. Feel free to contact us directly. Maddie will send you all the materials. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.